Good evening to you. I'm making this very quick video regarding what it's like to leave the United Kingdom as a dual citizen. The country that my wife is a dual citizen of is South Africa. She was born and raised in South Africa, and we've been planning a holiday for her to go and see her mother for quite some time now, and she had to renew her passport here in the UK. I've done 2 video clips on that if you're interested in looking at them for South African passport holders. I've done 2 videos. They are called Renewing a South African Passport in the United Kingdom 2022, Part 1 and Part 2. It's quite a procedure, but I've given you a lot of detailed information there. Anyway, after struggling for a couple of months to get a South African passport, we booked the holiday to South Africa, and the reason why she got her passport renewed is that we had heard that the South African authorities were getting a bit sticky, letting people into South Africa on foreign passports as a dual citizen when they were born in that country. In other words, they want people to enter on their South African passports. So we eventually got my wife's South African passport sorted out. We went to a travel agent to book the ticket, and a little bit of confusion had entered my mind and my wife's mind as to the procedure of travelling as a dual citizen, as she had never done that before. She'd just gone on her British passport until she'd heard that the South African authorities are getting a little bit sticky, so she decided to comply with their regulations. In fact, it's illegal to enter South Africa on another passport if you're a South African citizen. So you should enter on your South African passport. So anyway, the travel agent said, we're going to book you in on your South African passport because the information we take from you goes straight to the South African authorities, and when you leave the UK, just use your South African passport. So I took it on board, and I thought, well, it doesn't sound right. Anyway, I said to my wife, when you get to the airport, use your British passport to leave the United Kingdom, because the British authorities need to know that you're leaving the United Kingdom. First of all, because we didn't book her in online, they didn't accept her passport at the place where you hand in your suitcases. They said you had to go over to a machine. So she went over to a machine to get her boarding pass, and you will know, for many of you have told, that there are no longer immigration cubicles with men and women sitting in them in the United Kingdom. You just go to a machine, you swipe your passport, and away you go. So my wife phoned me and said, I don't know what to do. Which passport do I use? So I said, well, you're leaving the United Kingdom, you better use your British passport. So she put her British passport with the code number, whatever, from the booking into the machine, and it rejected it. So she then called for help from an Emirates employee, and they came over, and she put a South African passport in, and it accepted it. So this was very confusing to me, because we were told at the interview that, well, the travel agent, it doesn't matter what what passport your ticket is booked on when you're traveling to South Africa. It doesn't matter. It could be the British one or the South African one. But she said use the South African one to avoid any potential hiccups when you're entering South Africa. So, okay, anyway, she's got her boarding pass and she's going through to security now. But as I sat thinking about this after my wife had phoned me, she's now leaving the United Kingdom on a South African passport that is brand new. It has no visa for living in England in it. That passport has no association with my wife, with the British authorities. And so how do the British authorities know that my wife is leaving the country? Well, it doesn't seem to matter. You know, when she got through to boarding the plane, she said, oh, I give up to the lady. I'm a dual citizen. I don't know which passport to give you. She showed both of them. They just shrugged their shoulders and said, get on the plane, you can go. And so she left the United Kingdom on her South African passport, where she'd never entered into England on that passport in the first place. No visa in it, nothing. How on earth the British authorities know that she's left the country is just mind-blowing. When she got to Dubai, she had a little bit of a nervous thing. Which passport do I use? Yeah, because you have to go through immigration in Dubai now. You enter on a flight and you leave on a flight through immigration. So she thought, stick with it. She handed in a British passport and they said, thank you, welcome to Dubai. And she had to run for a next flight because the Emirates flight was late. She literally had to run a mile to get to the next plane. They took the British passport and she got there. Now I thought, the next hurdle, so I had a sleepless night waiting for her to reach South Africa. The next hurdle will be her entering South Africa. On a South African passport, they're going to say, well, there's no stamp in it from when you left South Africa. Where did you get this passport from? Blah, blah, blah. I guess I just worry too much. I want all the dots, all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed. That's the type of person I am. Anyway, she went up to immigration, handed in a South African passport. They stamped it and said, welcome to South Africa, or welcome back to South Africa. The weird thing is in South Africa, they stamp it the passport when you leave the country. There was no stamp leaving the country, and yet they were saying welcome back. So I'm completely, I'm a conspiracy freak, and I believe that every passport in the world belongs to one computer where everybody knows anybody everywhere. So how the British authorities knew that my wife left South Africa, I have no idea. So just bear this in mind. I'm yet to see what's going to happen when she returns because I'm making this movie while she's in South Africa. But be careful. My sister-in-law tried to leave South Africa a few weeks back. This is in 2022. I'm making this video. And her South African passport has expired. So she went to the immigration official at the airport in Johannesburg and handed in her British passport and South African passport and said, my South African passport's expired, I'm leaving on my British one. And the man made a big show. He held the expired South African passport above his head, made a big noise. Here's another woman who's too ashamed to be a South African citizen, leaving on a British passport. And then airport policeman escorted her into a room and they grilled her for an hour and a half, gave her a really hard time, reduced her to tears. In fact, my sister-in-law is not a person who exaggerates. So she missed her flight and she couldn't get compensation because it wasn't for a reason like bad weather or flight being cancelled. So things are getting a bit sticky. Do not show your British, or if you're a Canadian or an American or an Australian listening to this, do not show that passport when you get into South Africa. I'm talking about you being a dual citizen with South Africa, unless you've received permission to be a dual citizen. I wasn't worried about the South African authorities seeing my wife's British passport because we got permission from the South African High Commission. When we were applying for the British passport, we got permission for her to apply for the British passport. So I hope this little weird video helps some of you. Remember, if any of you are South African and you're trying to get your South African passport renewed in the UK, I've done 2 videos of that called Renewing Your South African Passport in the UK 2022. Okay, I hope this helped you. Over and out.